Hello friends, welcome to PegaLearn. Today we will discuss and learn about the few interview questions related to queue process and job schedulers. Okay, so if we are going for an interview, the background processing is very important. There will be no interview without background processing questions. Okay, 90% you will get. Definitely you will get questions related to queue process and job schedulers. So let's get started. So I have prepared a few interview questions like which I asked or which I came to know like recently a few interview questions related to the Q person job schedulers. First question. So okay, what is the purpose of for suppose when you are telling about yourself, you mentioned like I worked on Q process and job schedulers. Okay, you mentioned that statement. Then interview can question anything related to Q process and job schedulers. The regularly routine the question is what is difference between queue processors and job scheduler. That is one of the routine question. And why do we use the queue processor and job scheduler rules? That one. And interview can ask some in-depth details about queue process or job schedulers, or interview interviewer can ask real-time scenarios. For suppose I have this requirement. How do you achieve? Either you use the queue processor or job scheduler. Okay. So first we go into that. Before going into that, you need to know queue processor and job schedulers introduced from 8th version onwards. Okay. Before that, we were having the agents, standard agent and advanced agent. So they are deprecated now. That means we are now no longer using them. Instead of the agents, we are supposed to use the queue processor and job schedulers. We still have them. We need to know knowledge on the agents, but we always now we use queue processor and job schedulers only. First question: what is the purpose of queue processor and job scheduler? Simple question. The answer is for background processing. If we want to do any operations in the background, we can use these rules. Okay, we can set up these rules for the background processing. That is the purpose of the queue processor and job schedulers. Okay, next. When do you use the queue processor versus job scheduler? Okay, this question can be like, what is difference between queue processor and job scheduler? When do you use this? When do you use that one? And interviewer can ask something like, I I have this requirement. Which one do you use? Either you use the queue processor or job scheduler. So we will discuss about the points for all related interview questions. Interview question Interviewer may not ask the same exact question. I'm repeating again. He will ask his own statement, but the meaning we need to know what is the question. So he's asking about the queue processor and job scheduler differences when we use this one, when you use that one. Okay. First, QP. QP, we need to answer like this. Okay. Queue processor will be like a processing of an item from the queue. That means if we have one work object is nothing but one case, we need to do some operations related to that case, then we can use the queue processor. Okay, that doesn't mean that we cannot use job scheduler for this work. But normally, if you want to send any if you want to send some email related to the case. So the case is in the stage 2. Upon clicking of the submit, a mail has to be sent in the background. the case should be moved to the next stage. So in such scenarios, sending mail can be done in the background. We don't need to wait until the email sent and the user's time is precious. So we always need to think when user is clicking on submit button, how much time user is waiting to get the review screen to close the case and move on to the next case. That is important. Okay. So things which can run in the background without holding the user's time, we need to put them in the background. So sending email or getting some updates to the case or the case status updates or some automations, everything can be done in the background. So the case related items we updates or operations we can do using the queue process. Job schedulers. Job schedulers normally not the queued items, a specific work which should be done at a specific time. Okay, that means every midnight at 12 o'clock, we need to do some cleanup. We have one data table which contains a lot of records, and we got one requirement to clean up the data table records which are older than 30 days. For this kind of work, we don't need the queue process. What we can do? We can create a job scheduler, and job scheduler we will give the one activity which will query and do the cleanup or okay, so deleting the old records. That kind of logic we can put in the job scheduler activity, and the job scheduler can be scheduled to run at midnight at 12. So, and there is some other like we have one data table. Data table updates should be happen for every 1 hour, or there is a table which needs to be the records should be picked from the table and do some operations for every 30 seconds, 1 minute. So these kind of some specific kind of work independent from the cases, like it has to do its own work, like it has to query, get the results, and do the operations on those results. This kind of work we can use the job scheduler. So simply you can say like queue process we can use when we need to do some operations related to case. We can do the queue per processing, okay, through using the queue for processing or run in the background and shape. We can queue case, the work object records we can insert into the queue, and the queue processor can run. Whereas job scheduler, any specific kind of work needs to be done during specific point of time, we can use the job scheduler. For suppose there is a requirement, we have big jobs. Big jobs should run daily at 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern time, EST. How can you achieve? Do you use the queue processor or job scheduler? That is important. That's very regularly we have the big jobs in every application, and we get this requirement. So at 10 p.m. at 10 p.m. we need to run. We need to do the big extracts and send to the big folders. So what can we do? It is kind of a run the extract and send FTP the files. So we will use the job schedulers for sending the big files. Okay, and there are some out of the box job schedulers which will do the node cleanup, some temporary tables cleanup like that. Okay, next question. Which access group does queue processor use? Okay, before discussing about this question, we will go and create sample queue process and we will see. First of all, I'll create one job scheduler. Okay, So I'm going to the records, sysadmin, job scheduler, and create. My requirement is, for suppose my requirement is to um, my requirement is to delete the or update the status or do some operations related to cases or data tables. Do we have any data tables here? Yeah, we have one policy data table. For suppose, okay, job scheduler is uh, cleanup policy table cleanup is the job scheduler. Simply create it. Earlier agents, for creating agents, we need to create the master agents for the rule set with the name of the rule set, and under that we will have the child agents, like whatever agents we need to create, we need to create under them. Now with the job schedulers and queue process, there is no that kind of dependency. These are like independent. Now enable job scheduler, it has to be enabled. We can disable also. Okay. Next, all associated nodes. This is a cleanup. So any one associated node should be sufficient. For suppose it should be done daily, every 1 day. Start time, if I want to give like 11 p.m. Okay, and the time, if I suppose Eastern, EST, Eastern context. So here context we can give either access group or we can give the system runtime context. I'm giving the system runtime context. Now let me take the class and creating the activity. Create and open. First step. First step is going to be query the records. Second step, loop through the results. And then after, and 2.1 insert below. Okay, after looping, we'll get the child like 2.1. We need to process each record. Hmm. First of all, what I will do is obj browse. The obj browse policy. Okay, data policy. So we are going to do the obj browse. The results will be like a page list, right? So I'm giving the policy page name as code pega list class, and the results as the px results, policy.px results. Now going here inside, expand the obj browse, give the page name as, for suppose if you want to give the page name as policy, the class has max records as, for suppose normally we will give like a, we give a max records because we cannot do the operations on thousands of records, right? Maybe we can, it's a kind of a taking time operations, then we give like 250. So it loops through 250, process the 250 records, and done. Job scheduler run will be closed, and then the next run take the next 250, like that. Now I'll give the field for suppose px create date time is less than or equal to, okay. If you want to take the for now, for suppose current date time, current date time. If you give the current date time, it will take the today's date time. Okay, and add days, add to date. If you give the add to date, and then for suppose I'd like to give the add to date minus 10, so it will take minus 10. So it is taking the 0 to 28 minus 10 days. For suppose now we need to give 30, right? If you give 30, it will take the 1 month older date. I have taken the 1 month older date from today, and then the records will be coming on the policy.px results. Then loop through the policy results and do the obj open by handle. Something we can do. If you want to get the policy here, policy ID, okay, value only. If we have the PZINS key, we can take the PZINS key. Okay, and then here we can loop through the for each embedded page. Now PX results, and we can do inside add child, do obj delete. Okay, before doing the obj delete, we need to do the obj open, right? Obj open or obj open by handle, and then after we can do the obj delete, or we can do the obj delete by handle as well to delete directly. So this is how we can do, but I don't want to delete any records from the PX results. So what I will do is here in this step, I'll show you the complete code for your reference. What I can take, if you have the PZ dynasty, take the PZ dynasty key into a parameter, and we will use this key in the obj delete by handle here. That's it. You can select the immediate so that it will be deleted immediately. Now here, do the page remove of policy. So all policy.px results will be deleted, removed. Pages will be removed. Now, for suppose I'd like to run it manually. Run by putting the tracer on. Okay. There is an issue doing the obj browse. That is PZNS key. There is no PZNS key for this table. Okay, it's a data table, so there is no PZNS key. We have to do obj delete only. Okay. I'm going to comment these two steps for now. For the tracer, run. There is an issue still. It is saying PZNS key. Can't use the PZNS key as a column. We have removed it, right? Yeah, precedence key is removed. Row key, get row key. Okay. Mm, now let's run it. Put the tracer on, run. Yep. Now it is successful. Let's open it. PX max records are 3. PV max records 3. And where is the PX results? Okay. Yeah, taking the 3 results. Doing the OBJ browse, take 3 results which are older than, okay, we got the 0 results. That is because we don't have any records which were created older than minus 30 days. So what we will do, I will give it like 3 days. We definitely have the records which are older than 3 days. See. So we have the PX results of 1 is P1, P2, P3. 3 results came. After getting the results, we have the policy ID, which is the, let me open the new definition. Yeah, policy ID is the key. So we can use this key to the delete, to delete the record. Okay, so now we have the policy cleanup activity, and we have given the policy cleanup activity here. Save it. Now, after saving, let's go to the admin studio and let's go to the job schedulers, jobs. Here we need to see our cleanup job. Where is it? Okay. Let's refresh once again. Okay, what is the job name that we gave? Policy table cleanup, right? Okay. Yeah, there is a one policy. Yep. Enabled. Next run is at 11 p.m. Okay, we gave it like a to run it every day at 11 p.m. So in the admin studio and jobs, we're able to see our job to run next run at 11. Okay, this is about the job scheduler. Now, how job scheduler will run? If we are asked about the which access group job scheduler will use, how job scheduler will run, that is, we have the context parameter. If we use the system runtime context, in Pega 8, we have the system runtime context, which contains the list of applications. So it will take the rules from this application and execute. Or instead of using the system runtime context, we can specify one access group. For suppose this is a sample application, sample others, sample services, sample administrators, whatever access group that we have, we can give for executing this job. Next, let's go to the queue processor. So for suppose for queue processor, okay, for queue processor, we have one question like how many types of queue processors do we have? Okay, answer is two. One is the standard, and the second one is the dedicated. Okay, standard and dedicated. Standard means Pega out of the box has given one standard queue processor for doing the sample operations. Like for suppose this is the PZ standard processor is the standard queue processor, and for this one, for suppose we do some rare activities. Why do we need to create a dedicated queue processor for simple sample work which executes rarely, or okay, there is no big work involved there. There is no complex logic. A simple logic. So what we can do, we can use the Pega provided standard processor, give the activity name to execute for that case. Simple. So we have the standard means Pega provided one standard queue processor. For this one, we just need to provide the activity name. And this is a standard processor immediately executed. And it has the 3 retry attempts in case is locked or any some issues. Three retry, by default, 3 retry attempts happens, and then after it will go to the broken queue processor. Now, dedicated queue processor. Dedicated queue processor is we are going to create our own queue processor whenever we have large number of operations happening or small number only, but there is a complex logic to be executed. In that scenarios, we can go with the dedicated queue processor. And one more option, if you want to do the queue processor to run delayed after 1 hour or daily at night, there is some requirement to run delayed, then we need to go for our own queue processor. Okay. So now we will test. Um, we'll test one here. So I'm going to create new step, which is automations. Under automations, run in the background. Okay. Okay. Run in background. Select it. After selecting here, type of the queue. Run in background means we are going to execute one queue processor. Like we are going to queue for one queue processor. Which queue processor do you want to queue? Standard or dedicated? So I'll go with the dedicated queue processor. In case of standard, we need to provide the activity name. In case of dedicated, we need to provide the queue processor name. I'm going to give the one queue processor to update the case or to the make updates or send the email or anything. Okay. Um, process sample QP. I'm giving the something like that. So this sample case will be processed in the background, something like that. And lock using. If you give the lock using primary page, that means it will take this case PZN is key locking and queue processor will process. If you give key defined on property, for suppose this is not a case and we are executing one, we are mm, queuing some item data table related regarding to a queue processor. In that scenarios, for some data tables will not have the PZN is key. In that case, whatever the key is there for the data table for that record, we need to give the key so that it holds the lock on the key. None means we don't give any locking, no locking required. Here, alternative access group. Now, if we don't need to give this one because it is asking about the alternative. What is primary? It is asking about the alternative means what is the main access group. So that answers to this question. Which access group queue processor use? Queue processor use the operator or users access group who queue the record for queue processor. If you are asked about the which access group queue processor use, you need to answer it like whoever the which operator is queuing that, doing the execution of queue for processing, that users, that operators, that CSRs access group will be used while executing the queue processor activity. Okay, right. Now let's create one queue processor. I gave the queue processor name as sample process sample queue processor, and the class is going to be as a class. Take the class and process sample test something, creating the activity. For suppose I'm going the property set. For suppose changing some properties, we have the fields, right? These many fields are there. For suppose I'd like to update the policy status to policy in progress. Something. It's not ideal business scenario, but something like that. We are updating and save here. See, it will be run in the background processing node type. It will be executed immediately, but we can go for the delayed as well. Okay, if you want to go for delayed, what we will do, we'll go for dedicated. Okay, I'll show you that one later. For now, I'm going to save it. Okay, done. For suppose we have, how can we run the queue processor? First one is run in the background automation shape in the case type, in the flow. The second one is in activity. So suppose I'm going to create one sample activity, or let's open any activity which we have. Okay, I'll open. Here we have the method for queue for processing. Okay, so queue for agent will be used for the standard agent, queue for agent, and queue for processing is for the, it will be used for our queue processor. So here, for suppose I'd like to give dedicated queue processor name as whatever QP we have is sample process sample QP and locking QP. Okay, queue immediately. Save it. Now we'll go for the delayed. First, suppose when I select the delayed option here, and let's save it. So this is not going to be when to process. It is not going to be processed immediately. It is going to be processed delayed. Okay. Now let me QP. When I select this again, it is asking for the one date time field property. So here we can give one property to get, and that property should contain the date time when this record should be, this queue process should be executed. Okay, so now we will go to the questions and we will discuss further. Okay, next question. First, suppose here you might be asked another interview question. Can we give or update the access group for QP? Okay, whenever we tell like whoever operator that queue the item that operator's access group will be used for processing the queue processor activity. Immediately, if interviewer asks, can ask this question, can we update the access group? Instead of operator, I would like to go for admin. I would like to go for some users, some other access group. Yes. Our answer is yes. We have an option to provide the alternative access group while using the queue for processing method. Okay. So whatever we are answering, the questions will be derived from our answer. Next, which access group job scheduler use? Job scheduler will use the system runtime context or the access group which we provided in the job scheduler rule form. Okay. How to trace queue processor? How to trace the job scheduler? Okay. Important questions. Job scheduler and queue process. Mainly, first we will discuss about the queue processor. So, what you need to tell is answer is I'll go to the admin studio. I will select my queue processor, and on the my queue process on the last column there is a three dots where when we click on the three dots we have the option to trace. So I'll click on the trace so that that will be traced. It will wait for 1 minute, and next one queue entry is there. Then that will be a queue process will be executed, and I can contain that tracer. This is for queue processor. Coming to the job scheduler, we have the same option. When I go to the admin studio, when I will see the jobs, and on the jobs on the last column there is a three dots, and I can change. I can trace it here. But for job scheduler, we don't need to come to admin studio and trace it. We have the job scheduler activity which is independent. Normally, it runs independently, right? So there is no this job scheduler activity. There is no dependency mainly. So it's like cleanup or something. We can open the job scheduler activity and directly run it and trace it. Normally, every time we do the executing and tracing for job scheduler activity. For queue processor, we go to the admin studio and do the tracer from the admin studio. Okay, admin studio, says admin studio, queue process, tracer for that specific QP row. Job scheduler, same admin studio, jobs, tracer, or run the job scheduler activity, trace. Next, standard versus dedicated queue processor. If you are asked like what is the difference between standard and dedicated queue processor? Simple. The naming itself it is saying standard means out of the box given queue processor, and it runs for every 30 seconds. It has 3 retry attempts. If you want to do some simple logics or rarely used some background processing, we can go for standard processing, and for standard queue process, we need to provide the activity name. So this QP will take the activity and execute for that record. Coming to dedicated, we have some complex logic to execute for any record, or we have large number of volumes. And standard are everywhere. We use standard in multiple places, so we cannot overload the standard queue processor. When we have the huge volume, then we go for the dedicated queue processor. That's how you can tell. Now, now I got one more question. Why QP come into picture? Why Pega is recommending queue processor versus standard agent? This can be asked like this, or they can also like ask like What is difference between queue processor and standard agent? Or which is better versus queue processor or job scheduler? Which is better? Which one is better to use? Do you think in terms of coding or in terms of performance or in terms of multi-threading? Which is better and why? Why do you think that it is better? Answer. Question can be anything. You need to answer properly. Now, see, standard agent and queue processor like they will take the records from queue and process them. But standard agent is like a table. It takes from the table, database table, and it automatically log the work object and do the processing. Automatically commit the record, and if in case of there is any failure, it has the auto queue management. So it will do the auto queue management. That is the benefits of standard agent. But I would say that queue processor has a lot of benefits. It is way more better than standard agent in terms of performance. It is easy to implement for developers. It is easy to debug. It is easy to it is better performance. It has better performance. You can select. Why? Because instead of asking before asking interviewer why, you need to tell them that why, because queue processor use the Kafka. We have stream node which contains the Kafka topics and Kafka data flows which have around 20 by default 20 partitions. 20 partitions and so multi-threading is possible in using QPs. So we can process 20 records at a time as we have if you Q- so this is something you need to understand. Okay, it might confuse you, but if you know the queue processor completely, you will understand. That means whenever I execute queue for processing method, what happens? It is immediate, then insert to the Kafka topic. Kafka topic is nothing but like a one queue item for one QR, one okay, one entry. Okay, it's like one topic entry. And for every queue processor, we will have one data flow running. Okay, on stream node. So whenever we create any dedicated queue processor, we will get the one data flow. Data flow is nothing but like a one job, continuous job running. If you don't know the data flow, it's like a data flow is like a continuously running and checking the Kafka topic. If there is any record in the Kafka topic in the queue, it will take it and get the execute of the queue processor activity. Okay, get execute the queue processor activity, QP activity for that record. Okay, so we have the 20 topics means for suppose we have the three nodes, 20 topics. So from the three nodes, 20 topics, 20 parallel calls can happen from the three nodes. Okay, so 20 cases can be executed at a time. That because of that reason, this is performance wise very more um, improved. So now next topic, if stream node is down, what happens? Stream node is down means data flow will not run. That means what happens is Pega itself 1 minute. Stream. For suppose stream node is down, in that case, we have the system message, System queue message um, system message queue processor. There is one delayed item. There is a class. So those records will be inserted into the delayed item. Okay. For suppose system is not down. A, after 3 retry attempts or 5 retry attempts, what happens? What happens is we have the same broken system message queue processor broken items table. So we have the two database tables which contain the delayed items, which contain the broken items. So they will be automatically, whenever the time comes, the delayed item time comes, it will be pushed to the topic and it gets executed once the stream node is up. Okay. So because of all these features, it's good. Queue processor is, I personally feel queue processor is better than standard agent. Okay. Next, now coming to the real-time questions. Okay. Um, First question: while processing the case, need to create documents and send email in the background. How do you implement? Like, which rules do you use? Okay. So it is case, right? While processing the case, that means I want to, from the case processing, I need to do something in the background. I'll go for queue processor. So you need to answer like, so now I need to do some work like create documents or sending email, something I have to do in the background. So I create queue processor, my own, I create one dedicated queue processor to do the work because it looks like create documents, send email, something, it's like a complex logic to do some complex logic. So I'll go for the dedicated QP for this work. Okay. So what happens whenever I submit the case? So whenever we need to do this kind of background work, I'll put the run on background. Use I'll do queue for processing for my dedicated queue processor, and the queue processor will do the that work in the background. That's it. Done. Next to real-time question. Our queue processor is not processing the records. What all checkings that we need? Okay, this is a debugging question. Yeah. So queue processor debugging is important. What is debugging? Means queue processor is not running. Okay. My records. This case for this case is executed. Queue for processing is done, but documents are not creating. Send email is not being sent. What could be the reason? That means need to check whether queue processor is running or not. Before that, we have the stream node, right? We have the stream. Like whether stream is running or not, we need to check. How can we check the stream? Okay, go to configure in the decisioning infrastructure services stream. When we go for the stream, it is normal. Okay, external Kafka. So it's external Kafka and it is normal. If it is not normal and it is not, it is down. For suppose it is stopped. Here I'm not able to do the start or stop. That is because of it's a external one, so I cannot start or stop this one. So first thing, do check the stream service. Stream service is up, but we are not getting. Then go to admin studio and check any broken items for that QP. Okay, that means we need to go to the queue for process. See, 364 broken items here. We will see which QP has the broken. So whenever some record is broken, in this column we see the broken items. When we click on this member here, we get all the records. Okay, so these many are failed. If you want to see, when we click on the last column to view XML, when we scroll down to the bottom, you'll be able to see the reason for why it is broken. Some timeout happens for this one. Okay, so this is how we can check. Like, oh, okay, we got the records for queue processor, but they are, oh, I stopped it. Okay, but they are broken. Okay, so we can requeue them. Next, apart from them, okay, we can check like for sometimes if QP is not running, we can how to restart the QP. It might be some other question. Okay, sometimes you might be asked how to restart the QPR job scheduler. What is your answer? Simple. So go to Admin Studio. Override. Override is the option. When I click on override, it is now currently it is enabled. Means running. When I click on override, it is disabled. That means it will not run. For temporarily, we can do that. And then when we click on revert, it will be enabled again. This is how enable and then override and enable. So QP is not running, restart QP. That is how we do the debugging. This is how we will restart. Next, real-time entry question. At midnight, one temporary data table records which are older than the 30 days should be removed from the data table. How will you implement this requirement? Can you use QP for this? Okay, you understood the question, right? You need to understand the question. He's saying cleanup work. When you need to tell, yeah, this is a cleanup work which is independent from the work objects, not from the cases. This is not related to cases. So I will go for the job scheduler. I will create a job scheduler scheduled to run at midnight. And in the job scheduler activity, I'll do the removal of the records from older than 30 days. That's it. So now you need to remember he asked one more question. Can you use QP for this? He asked for this question. Now you need to answer him. Ideally, QP is not a ideal solution for this one. Why? Because QP needs queue entry. So which queue entry we can give for deleting these records? So ideally QP is not a ideal solution for this one. Okay, I'll create job scheduler for this one. Next real-time interview question. We have one data table which get latest data from some other application for every 1 hour. We need to refresh the data table for okay. I'll do one thing. I'll create one more video. It's getting lengthier. Okay, we'll meet in the next video, guys. And these are like some advanced, okay, advanced interview questions. Maybe if you're LSA or CWSA, the senior resources, this kind of real-time questions will be asked. So we will discuss about these questions specifically in the next video. See you, friends.